So today I'm going to be reviewing Inuyasha and Inuyasha Final Act, a feudal fairy tale. Now Inuyasha was originally 167 episodes produced by Studio Sunrise throughout the years 2000 through 2004, but then was later on finished off with Inuyasha Final Act in 2009 through 2010. Now the premise of the series is basically this girl Kagome. She was sent back to the feudal era by falling in a well and ends up meeting this guy named Inuyasha. Inuyasha is half human, half demon. And pretty much she discovers that she has this thing called the Shikon Jewel where she accidentally shatters it, and therefore they all have to go looking for it, because this thing called the Shikon Jewel is kinda a big deal. I guess it grants a wish to the person that has it completed. Upon looking for the jewel, they discover this guy named Naraku, and this guy Naraku has done a lot of people wrong. And throughout their journey, they meet people that Naraku has wronged in one way or another, and they ultimately become allies. For example, Sango. Naraku took control of her brother, had her brother kill his entire family except her, and therefore she wants to seek revenge. There's also Moroku, the perverted monk, who likes to feel up on butts. Naraku had this cursed seal that whenever he opens his palm starts sucking everything into this dark vortex placed on his father, and then it was ultimately passed on to him. There's also a couple other important characters such as Kikyo, Inuyasha's former love, who ended up having this bad falling out with him and ended up dying. And so for the setup of the series, it actually starts off very good. You have this really good setup, a lot of pretty cool allies, interesting characters, and ultimately it seems like it's a go. But that's when things start getting problematic with the series. See, it has an awesome start, great premise, everything looks like it's going beautiful until the story keeps on progressing. Remember, with 167 episodes and 26 episodes for Final Act, that is 193 episodes in total. And with one person being the villain, Naraku, for the entire series, you would have to definitely be creative in order to keep things interesting and ultimately not get repetitive. Which is where the writer, Rumiko Takahashi, falls short. A big problem that I have with this series, and ultimately is the big thing about this series, is it gets really repetitive. It's pretty much, oh shit, we're about to defeat Naraku, we finally got him cornered, this is gonna be the end, oh, he got away. And it goes on and on that same exact path. Corner Naraku the villain, think you're gonna defeat him, think it's over, and here we go again, here we go again, here we go again. Yes, people, throughout this entire anime, I would say one of the big flaws of it is its repetitive nature. And while Rumiko Takahashi definitely tried her best to introduce different characters that were allies to Naraku and tried to do different things, ultimately having one villain throughout the entire series and it constantly getting cornered and then ultimately escaping is the biggest flaw of this series. You got a love triangle between Inuyasha, his former lover Kikyo, and Kagome. You have a lot of different things going on, but the main story going after Naraku just keeps on going and going and going, which unfortunately goes down even until the very end of Final Act. Now, animation for this series for the first part was definitely subpar, nothing really spectacular. There were a couple moments where it shined, but for the most part there was nothing really over the top or anything extravagant. And for part 2, while the animation did look a little bit more nicer because years had passed and the animation of anime in general had to change and evolve, it still wasn't anything too spectacular. Now, music-wise, I say that Inuyasha has a lot of great music to it. Just for example, even the opening number 1, I want to change the world. Yeah, that was a bad example, but it was freaking awesome. So it has some pretty awesome music and definitely fits a lot of the moods, and especially Naraku's theme is pretty freaking maniacal and chilling, and it sounds pretty freaking good. Some of the things that I like about the series is that, first of all, Inuyasha as a character does develop throughout the entire thing. He starts off as kind of like closed and alone, doesn't really want to accept people, doesn't give a shit about anybody, and then later on evolves to accept people and, you know, have friends and whatnot. So typical shonen stuff. But not only does he evolve there, he also evolves with different techniques, so it's not just very repetitive. Get some potential. Relax, I'm just kidding, but seriously. And I think that the love triangle between him, Kagome, and Kikyo was pretty interesting up until the very end. Without giving too many spoilers away, I feel as though it was left unresolved because of certain circumstances, and it felt as though Inuyasha never really chose who he wanted to be with. Now, the character Kagome can get annoying sometimes. I do dislike a lot of things that she does as far as male bashing, like, you know, constantly saying, sit boy, sit boy. By the way, when she says that, Inuyasha falls to the ground because of some curse. But I thought she had some sweet sides to her, and I really liked the fact that she was really ride or die for Inuyasha. Even when Inuyasha was kind of being a little unfaithful to her, she was still by his side and no matter what really wanted to ride with him. So I definitely like that about her. Now, Sango and Moroku, I think that they played a nice part in making things feel a little less repetitive, because while Inuyasha and Kagome were kind of going through their things, you would have Sango being a little bit like, you know, tsundere type towards Moroku, but then Moroku had his little pervy ways, so they kind of broke the mold a little bit with certain things, having them around, and they were just enjoyable characters. And that's probably one of my favorite things about Inuyasha, is that the characters they They have a lot of variety of characteristics to them, and it really can be enjoyable to watch them and, you know, just kick back and laugh. But there are a lot of weak points to this anime. Like I said before, the repetitive nature of constantly cornering Naraku only for him to escape. Also, the whole plot regarding the Shikon Jewel. Again, without giving too many spoilers away, the Shikon Jewel starts off pretty much, it gives you a wish if you complete it. If you have it in its full state, in its, you know, circular state with all the pieces, it will grant somebody a wish. And by the end, the final act, it got so convoluted and ridiculous with different things. It was like 1 minute it's this, next minute it's that, next minute it's yin and yang, next minute it's just yang. It really got convoluted. Now, final act is very essential to the series because you would think that maybe you could just watch the beginning and then not watch final act, but you need final act. Because originally Inuyasha was 167 episodes and basically a kick to the face of every fan of the series. Because at the last episode of the original it said, well, thanks for enjoying Inuyasha. Go read the manga if you want to see what else happens. Yeah, that really sucked. But thankfully they made up for it when the manga finally finished. They did final act, 26 episodes, but there were some problems with final act as well. 26 episodes had to cover over 200 chapters of content, and they did skip a lot of things from the manga. So pacing wise, Inuyasha final act was very fast paced and jumped over a lot of different events. But I guess nonetheless, as an Inuyasha fan, I was just thankful to finally get a conclusion to the story in anime form. All in all, Inuyasha, pretty enjoyable. I like the characters a lot. That was one of my favorite things about the series. The characters just really were playful and could really give you a good enjoyment when Inuyasha's slaying a demon, when he's going through his troubles with who he should choose, Kagome or Kikyo, and just ultimately the relationships and bonds that they formed was interesting to see. And I also really liked the way it was set up because it's set up as if it was just going to be something amazing. But a lot of the shortcomings just really came from the repetitive nature and the lack of planning that Rumiko Takahashi did regarding the Shikon Jewel and the ending. She had a great start but just didn't know where to go after a certain point. All in all, I give it a 6 out of 10. You want something enjoyable, very long shonen mixed with romance, pretty awesome characters, and a pretty cool villain? Check out Inuyasha. But be warned, there is a high repetitive nature to it. Notice how much I used the word repetitive in this review. Wasn't that repetitive? But that's all I have for this review. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you've seen Inuyasha, Inuyasha Final Act, or any of the series, let me know what you think. Do you think that it was a bit too repetitive for your taste? And ultimately, what do you think about Rumiko Takahashi's work? This is her most popular work to date, and while it did have its problems, I definitely say that it was an enjoyable ride, and, you know, just to kick back every day and pop in some Inuyasha is a fun thing to do. Also want to mention Sesshomaru, Inuyasha's brother, because he was probably one of my favorite characters throughout the entire series. In fact, if I had to do a top 3 favorite characters from the series, it would definitely be Sesshomaru, Moroku, and Kikyo. Kikyo was very wise, and not only that, she was a pretty good looker. Know what I'm saying? Inuyasha Final Act. Do you think that it was awesome, amazing, average, overall thoughts of it? And if you haven't seen it, will you be checking it out based on my review? Like I said, 6.0 out of 10. Thumbs up for Inuyasha because regardless of what, it still brought a lot of entertainment to my life, and I appreciate that. As always, people, have an awesome day.